So, as many people have commented in the videos looking for updates on the IHOP scandal, here it is. I'm going to give you the latest information. Here's what we're going to cover today in the video. IHOP changes their law firm for the investigation from a larger national firm to a smaller local firm. Petitions are going around asking for IHOP to use Grace instead of the law firm. And IHOP releases a statement on the initial findings on the sexual assault allegations against Mike Bickle. And one of the 4 former executives who presented the story to the public about Mike Bickle finally breaks his silence on what he thinks on the initial findings report. And then I want to add some shocking details. So let me give you a quick recap so far for people who are just joining in with this video. Mike Bickle was accused of sexual misconduct by 3 former IHOP executives who released the report publicly. They did so because they said that they were repeatedly blown off by the IHOP leadership team. And it seems that there are multiple women who have come forward with allegations about Mike, where the covenant of marriage was not honored as it said in the statement. So this is most likely accusations of Mike having sex with these women. It seems like the number is 6 different women have come forward. Then another former executive, Alan Hood, comes forward to substantiate the claims against Bickle, claiming that he is helping one of the victims currently. But 3 women who are supposedly on the victims list came forward to say that they have never been sexually assaulted by Mike Bickle. To make matters worse, Mike preached his last sermon at Ihopkc and said that the Lord showed him not to defend himself, but that the Lord would defend him. So Mike has not denied the allegation so far. But it seems as Ihopkc has asked him to not comment publicly as well. They should probably bake tradition with that. If Mike is innocent, he should probably come forward and say so. So on this channel, I'm going to cover heavy and controversial subjects, so this might not be the channel for you if you don't have the stomach for it. It is time in the body of Christ to start having real conversations, to prevent things like this from happening in the future, even if Mike turns out to not be guilty in all of this. We're having far too many scandals, and common sense accountabilities need to be set in all ministries. And I know many people are going to question the motives of my heart for doing a video like this, but to say it simply, I want the body of Christ to be the best that it can be. And this isn't it. So Michael Brwon recently has stated and came forward on Twitter that he is not going to be in part of the investigation anymore. So Michael Brwon releases this statement on Twitter. Due to my schedule constraints, including international travel, I am unable to stay closely involved as necessary with the daily developments of the investigation into these allegations against Mike Bickle. And so while I will be available for counsel on an unofficial basis, I have removed myself from any official connection to the process. And that's really sad. It's really a shame because it was nice to see another leader that was involved in this situation that was not on the IHOP executive team, because I feel that there needs to be outside accountability in a serious situation like this. So if it isn't Michael Brwon, there should be somebody else, another ministry or 2 that come alongside and walk with them through the process. We don't want to lead the Ihopkc team to take this whole burden on by themselves, as well as just for transparency to know that someone else outside of the ministry is speaking into this situation. So before we get started, I saw leaked audio released this week of a current IHOP executive, David Slyker, okay? And he happens to be cursing up a storm in this video. So let's take a look at this video, which is pretty shocking, although the cursing is bleeped out on this.
Saturday to Tuesday isn't a lot of time, but the idea that I knew before Saturday is a lie. The idea that I knew what the allegations were before Saturday is a lie. The idea that I knew what was going on before Tuesday is a lie. You don't want to believe me? I don't give a shit. You do with that what you will. I've never lied to you ever in your life, but if you think I'm lying now, I don't give a what you think. Because you're willing to burn a friendship over somebody else's version of this story, and you won't listen to me. Live with that.
Anything else?
No.
So yeah, I want to give them grace. I know this is really a difficult situation,
To be free and flexible and creative was really...
I feel that David could have really handled himself a lot better. This conversation was shocking. He drops an S-bomb and an F-bomb. And I always really didn't get the best feeling about this guy. He always has a bit of a militaristic tone, and he seems a bit hardcore for my taste. But to be cursing and yelling in a meeting like this is 100% inappropriate. Now listen, I don't want to play holier than thou. I curse on rare occasions, but never in a ministry context. And secondly, this just doesn't give me confidence in the leadership at Ihopkc. We might be looking at seeing a whole change in leadership over there. How are we supposed to trust leaders that talk like this? I wouldn't send my kids there after hearing something like this. It sounds like a toxic environment for sure. And I would, if I was in charge of the ministry, I would sit David down for a season for speaking like that. So Ihopkc changes law firms for the investigation to they went from a large national firm to a smaller local firm. So this is a start in the right direction for them, I really feel like. Having a national law firm to represent them would scare away most people. However, many people are still very upset. I really would not want to be a leader at IHOP right now, so let's give them some grace. However, they still must do things right. In some ways, they're auditioning for their jobs. But it seems like they are at least trying hard at a minimum, so I want to respect that. But there's a petition going around this week that was emailed to me by a few different people, and this is one of the ministries, Heaven Bent Ministries. They did a podcast recently which explained a former student at IHOP came forward and she claimed to be raped by one of the people at IHOP and went to the leadership and just explained how they really didn't handle the situation really well. So Heaven Bent released. Today we're starting a petition to call on the current IHOP leadership team to do two things, including to invite Grace to conduct a true third-party investigation into Mike Bickle and the systematic environment at Ihopkc, and to publish the results. So we're seeing here that petition is making its rounds, and there's many signatures on that. People want to see Grace come in and do this third-party investigation. I totally agree. I don't think it should be done by a law firm. They need to have a ministry that comes in. Grace stands for godly response to abuse in a Christian environment. So they empower Christian communities to recognize, prevent, and respond to abuse. This would be the right move. However, Ihopkc comes forward to give more details 2 days ago in an ETL update letter on the 15th. Okay, so this is their leadership team update letter. And they wanted to say, they start off by saying that they're taking these allegations very seriously. They are investigating the allegations in a way that honors privacy, safety for those that are in due process. But they start off the letter right here, and I'm just going to highlight this because this was kind of shocking. They start off the letter right here. If you are a victim of any form of sexual abuse, past or present, or if you are the victim or a witness to any crime, please immediately report it to the proper law enforcement authorities. Now I'm going to explain why I found that statement kind of shocking. The problem with this is severalfold. Why don't they have a number for the victims to contact the law firm directly? So this would give people someone directly to call to, and those people should not have to go through Ihopkc first. Secondly, it seems that statement would only cover crimes, such as rape or forced sexual encounters. But a majority of sexual assaults happen by intimate people close to them. And it's in the context of a relationship. So you get to know someone, and in some way they have a term that's called grooming, and people are trying to get them into a sexual encounter. So if you add a spiritual element to that, it even complicates the matter. So I can say pretty confidently that I doubt anybody was raped or forced into a sexual relationship. If things did happen, it happened in a close relationship, and it was probably semi-consensual, so they wouldn't be crimes. Really doubting the Ihopkc leadership team at this point, okay, because this statement would only cover crimes, and maybe that's what they're trying to do, is trying to weed out some of unknown complaints that might come forward, because people will say, well, was it a crime or was it not a crime? And sending people to the police? It's just really shaking my head here. So basically, yeah, so they're coming in here to say that they're going to release a report on the initial findings, what they have found so far from the investigation, which we'll get into a little bit. And so they explain here in the video, in this letter, why IHOP has chosen to utilize attorneys to conduct the preliminary investigation. So IHOP's decision to engage a law firm to conduct a preliminary explanation had nothing to do with preparing a legal defense or intimidating potential victims, and everything to do with handling these allegations with the utmost seriousness which they deserve to be treated. So they came to say why they chose Stinson LLP, which is the larger law firm, and they decided to not go with them, but they explained in the letter that it's because that Stinson had a reputation for being really good with sexual abuse cases. So basically, they now explain why they cannot hire Grace. Okay, this was a good move because you see this petition circling for Grace to come in and handle this investigation. So they're going to explain here why we cannot hire Grace. As stated above, IHOP did not retain its current attorney to conduct a community-wide investigation into the allegations, but to conduct a preliminary examination into the allegations presented to us on October 24th. Nevertheless, we are not opposed to having an outside group come in to KC to review our initial findings. However, Grace cannot be that third party. So they state here that they reached out to Grace. Grace did not respond. Then the very next day, they learned that the founder of Grace is now a private attorney of the main alleged victim, whose claims is from 20 plus years ago. This attorney is also currently listed as a board member on Grace's website. Okay, so this makes it a conflict of interest. Okay, so IHOP wanted to come forward and say why they could not use Grace in this investigation, and that was a smart move on their behalf because they saw that that's what the public wanted to see. Okay, so now we're going to get into the initial findings report. So they're gathering up information on the victims, and they're going to sum that up here. Let's bring that up right now. Okay, so this is the initial report findings. Okay, so they're said on October 24th, the group of 4 people came forward, 3 men, to present the IHOP executive leadership team with a series of allegations against Mike Bickle, made by 8 women who the compliant group claimed to represent. After 3 weeks of an examination, IHOP has identified 5 of the alleged 8 victims. 3 of those 5 have publicly called the allegations lies. A 4th has not wanted to communicate with IHOP's attorney, and the 5th allegation related to incident precedes IHOP's founding. Further, it became apparent that the compliant group did not have permission to include 4 of the women on their list of the alleged victims. We remain committed to verifying the remaining allegations, but we need the compliant group to assist in our inquiry of the remaining alleged victims to ensure their veracity. There is much at stake in getting to the truth. Okay, so they're going on to say, like, many of you are very sad about this. We've asked Mike to step down. Okay, so they're saying also that within days, the ELT commenced consultation of outside legal experts on what to do. Okay, so basically what they're doing is trying to get a hold of all the complaints and sum them up. However, upon review by outside legal counsel, it was determined that the collection and presentation of the allegations by the complaint group lacked any semblance of reliability or due process. Wow, so they're basically saying these men that came forward, these former executives, that basically they didn't find any credit to these. The documents prepared by the compliant group to accompany the presentation of allegations on October 24th does not contain any actual evidence, no statements from the victims, neither sworn or unsworn, no emails, text, or other executives between Bickle and the alleged victims. The compliant group allegations were also presented along with prepared demands to prevent escalating levels of disclosure. So it seemed like the people who came forward made threats and demands on Ihopkc. These demands and threats, which included dictating the use of Ihopkc's funds, generated an atmosphere of concern regarding the true objectives of the compliant group. Wow. So here are the initial findings, okay? So basically, as you said before, they stated that there is 8 alleged victims, okay? The group did not and has not claimed that these women have ever previously made allegations known to Ihopkc prior to October 2023. So these women had never came forward before, okay? It was only a result of that investigation by those 3 men who released the report, and then one other man, Alan Hood, came forward later. However, it has become abundantly clear over the last 3 weeks that 4 of the women were presented as alleged victims without their consent. Some of the compliant group's allegations were presented in a document, and some of the allegations were presented orally in conversation. 3 women were identified by their initials in the document. An additional 5 anonymous Jane Does are listed in the document by the compliant group. Would not share their names or any details about these allegations, or how these women could be represented by the compliant group. Then Ihopkc was given the name of 2 additional women orally during the conversation that took place on October 24th. At that point, a total of 5 alleged victims have identified by name. Okay, so they're going in the first alleged victim here, and they were unable to verify. Okay, so according to the complaint group, the first of the named victims, by her initials, alleges that Mike Bickle emotionally pursued and prophetically manipulated her for more than 25 years ago. The allegation contains only 6 short lines of text and is non-sexual. It contains no first-person statements by the alleged victim herself. Ihopkc has been made aware of the evidence that suggests this woman was contacted by a member of the compliant group in early October in an attempt to recruit her to be part of the alleged victim group. It remains unclear if she was given permission for her name to be included. Now they're going into the second victim. Partial credibility established. The second victim, the only allegation is from 26 years ago, before IHOP was founded. The allegations include physical contact between Mr. Bickle and an adult woman. It is also insinuated that Mr. Bickle may have committed a crime. Ihopkc has not been able to determine whether this criminal allegation has any credibility. Nevertheless, in light of the details provided, we've asked Mike Bickle to step away from ministry. Our attorney has reached out to this alleged victim by phone and email on November 9th without success. Then on November 10th, we learned that the founder of Grace was the attorney representing her regarding these allegations. Ihopkc's attorney was able to make initial contact with the attorney on November 13th and 15th. Now, they have another bunch of victims, alleged victim number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6, okay? A third alleged victim asserts that a woman, again named by her initials, was a victim of being pursued emotionally and prophetically from 2013 to 2018. On November 2nd, this woman issued a public statement saying she was not a victim of Mike Bickle. This woman also sent a letter to Ihopkc attorney stating that the compliant group were bullies, that she had never given them permission. Alleged victim 4 refuted. Okay? On October 31st, a woman who was identified orally in a conversation by the leaders of compliant group to be part of the victim group issued a lengthy statement saying she was not an alleged victim of Mike Bickle. Okay? Alleged victim number 5 on the same day, October 31st, Halloween. Wow. God, there might be some spiritual implications to all this. Of course there is. Another alleged victim released a public statement via her social media account refuting any claims that she had ever been sexually or spiritually abused by Mike Bickle. This woman had been named by the compliant group during October 24th ETL meeting. Our attorneys spoke with the woman 10 days after she released a statement, and she maintained her empathetic denial of any misconduct by Mike Bickle towards her or any sexual involvement with him. Last one, victim number 6. Then on November 3rd, IHOP leadership team received a letter from a woman who had heard her name was being used as part of the allegations against Bickle. Her name did not come up in October 24th meeting, but she is the 6th woman whose name has emerged. She approached IHOP's leadership team to let them know these rumors were not true. She expressed that she was hurt to find out that her name was being part of the allegations, and wrote an email to ELT empathetically denying any form of abuse or inappropriate relationship with Mr. Bickle as have taken place. She is the 5th woman to refute that she is an alleged victim. Okay, so you're seeing here the victim number 1, they were unable to verify. Victim number 2, there is partial credibility, but it was from 26 years ago. And victim 3, 4, 5, and 6 have all been refuted, saying that they have not been a victim of Mike Bickle of any form of spiritual or sexual abuse. So that is some good news. So now I saw a Twitter post by Joel Richardson that basically had a lawyer commenting on what he thought about the initial findings report. Okay? And so we're going to bring that up right now. Okay? So we have this guy, Boslaw PA, on Twitter. IHOP has heard the demands to bring a third party to investigate the organization in general, but this step is premature until IHOP can establish the credibility of the allegations and genuine intent of the compliant group. 1 of 3. Then it goes on to say, this is not the role of Ihopkc to establish the credibility of the allegations. That's exactly why institutions engage in third-party investigations. Without a legitimate independent investigation, these issues will continue to overshadow Ihopkc for the next 20 years. Unresolved disclosures of any abuse don't simply go away. In my opinion, this is a travesty on so many different levels. Okay, so this guy's pointing out the serious flaw in all of this. IHOP coming forward and explaining what they feel of the credibility of these allegations. This should not be done by IHOP. Okay, they are going to be biased in this. They are going to have the back of Mike Bickle. They are going to try to cover for their friend, for the ministry. In a lot of cases, their employment is tied to this. Their financial future is tied to this. They should not be conducting and determining the credibility of these claims. That should be done by a total third party, and they should be in the dark. Okay? So now, I was thinking this whole time, why aren't these men who've come forward, first original 3 men, which were Dwayne Roberts, Brian Kim, Wes Martin, why aren't they speaking? And then Alan Hood released a statement later. They're all former executives with IHOP and been with them long term. Why aren't they saying anything? IHOP is refuting these allegations, minimizing them to basically one encounter from 26 years ago. And the statements they released were quite aggressive. So why aren't any of them coming forward to say anything? They have been so quiet, okay? And I was looking on Twitter, following these guys. I reached out to Alan Hood myself, and he didn't answer anything back. Well, it turns out that one of these whistleblowers are going to respond here. Okay, so now let me say this before we get started here. The whistleblower who comes forward is the one who has been accused for putting women on the victims list who said they didn't want to be included. This is Dwayne Roberts right here, the picture that you're seeing. This article was published by Julie Roys from the Roys Report, and she tends to be very accurate. Okay, so this is Dwayne Roberts. If my discernment is correct, I really don't trust this guy out of all the 4 men who came forward. To me, just something says, I don't know if I can trust this guy. I might be wrong. Who I do trust is Alan Hood. Like I said, I reached out to him on Twitter, but he didn't respond. Alan, I don't know him, never met him, but he just seems like a person I really, really trust. This guy, Dwayne Roberts, I'm not so sure about him. Okay, because many people are questioning the motives. Why are these guys coming forward? Do they have some type of beef against Bickle? Then Rick Joyner releases a video and says they're Absaloms and they're trying to attack the anointed King David and etc. and etc. And we can't rule that out. Maybe they do have a bone to pick with Bickle, these guys. But I couldn't see a few of them come. If it was just one guy together, I might say that's a possibility, but 4 men that have been long-time workers at IHOP, and this guy, Dwayne Roberts, is a founding member of Ihopkc. So, Dwayne Roberts finally decides to speak out, and Julie Roys republishes it. Dwayne Roberts, a founding member of Ihopkc and a member of the so-called compliant group, called IHOP's report disappointing on several levels in a statement submitted to the Roys report. So he's going to go on later. He's going to go on to give more details, which he probably should have done a lot sooner. Okay, so Dwayne is saying here, we are firmly convinced that no charges should be made against an elder except in the cases of 2 or 3 witnesses, Roberts stated. The fact that around 20 witnesses have come forward with first-hand experiences of impropriety was why we could no longer remain silent. Ouch. So Dwayne is saying 20 different people have come forward. Okay? Robert specifically took exception to the report's claim that victim number 2 had partial credibility. It's going to be another bombshell here. This case of victim number 2 includes a relationship between a 42-year-old internationally renowned minister and a 19-year-old. A relationship that began with prophetic manipulation and became a 4-year sexualized relationship that lasted into the early years of Ihopkc, Roberts stated. According to the report, the compliant group first approached Ihopkc on October 24th with these allegations against Bickle. So Dwayne Roberts finally does respond, says that victim number 2 is a very serious situation. It went on for 4 years. It's with an internationally known minister. Okay, so it's probably a public face, somebody that we would all know if you're a big fan of IHOP like I am, and just a big fan of the whole ministry, the whole concept of 24/7 worship, the biblical teaching that comes forward there. God, I just want to see this ministry continue. I want to see them go on to something else. But Dwayne Roberts is saying 20 victims came forward. Okay, so that would even bring the number from what they're saying, 8 until 20. Okay, so one of the men that came forward, who has some mud on his name, because a lot of the women mentioned him and said that they asked him not to be included on the list, but he put them on the list anyway. And so he's saying, and Dwayne Roberts finally comes forward. Okay, so let's sum all this up. What can we learn from all of this? Well, first off, this is a very tricky situation, and we shouldn't rush to judgment. So many people have called for Bickle to be burned at the stake, and it's said, God will bring his judgment down. But let's wait till all of the facts have been released, and it's premature to pronounce judgment right now. So if you've been hurt by other church leaders and stuff like that, I can see you want justice. But right now isn't the time. We must wait for the facts to come to light. It is possible that Mike could be cleared in all of this. Okay? But like many people said in the comments, where there's smoke, there's usually a fire. Okay? So if I go with my gut and my discernment, I think it can be possibly that Mike might have done something with 1 or 2 women from many years ago. But this is still serious. But not as serious as the initial allegations brought against Mike in the report. It is still possible that Mike is innocent, okay? And it's important to say that. These are still allegations. Nothing has been proven so far. However, when a whistleblower comes forward and says there could be up to 20 women, You said that this situation is going to take a very long time. We're going to need a lot of patience with this. It could take weeks, if not months. But it would seem to be that Mike did something at a minimum. So what should we determine from all of this? I think they should use a ministry like Grace. Obviously, we know now that Grace cannot be involved because they're representing one of the victims. But instead of using a law firm, a ministry should be involved in this process, because they're going to be able to empathetically minister to the victims and get things forward. A law firm is an overkill. It's not the right approach, especially if there are sexual crimes that went on here. IHOP leadership shouldn't be involved in this process. Okay? As we seen in the beginning of the video, one of their leaders, executive leaders, flying off the handle and cursing like a madman on the video. This has to be a true third-party investigation where they are all left in the dark until the end. And they need to have a phone number posted where people can possibly come forward with more allegations. And they should be speaking with somebody in ministry, with ministry experience, a social worker, a pastor, not a lawyer. Telling people to contact the police. I'm just shaking my head at all of this. In their first statement, they said, if you've been a victim, then contact the authorities. If and when another ministry like Grace can get involved and they do publish a report, it should go straight to the public, not to the IHOP leadership team. So basically, you're seeing in this, IHOP is the one leading this investigation so far, releasing the details. Can we trust them? I think somewhat we can trust them, but you don't even want to put this in their hands. The ball should not be in the hands of the Ihopkc leadership team. They have a vested interest in all of this. There should be a third party that's communicating all these details, assessing the allegations, etc. And they should not be involved at all until the end. Okay, so before we close here, I just wanted to address something on a pastoral level. Okay, let's address the amount of lies that have come through on the comment section in my videos. And they're lies along the way that all church leaders are bad. And that is not the truth. There are so many wonderful, good church leaders out there, like Dr. Michael Brwon, 50 years in the ministry, many years in the ministry, with no scandals, okay? But we do need to pick our leaders and ministries more carefully, okay? And we need to do our due diligence to make sure they have accountability and that it's a healthy culture. But the truth is, Jesus left Peter in charge of the church. And then the disciples went and appointed all types of leaders over those ministries. Okay? So your destiny is tied to a man of God, and they're going to help you get to your destiny. We can't do it by ourselves. We need men of God. We need people to lead the church. And not all church leaders are bad. Is another second big lie that has come by. Why bother going to church? It should just be Jesus, me, and my Bible. This is wrong. This is false. The New Testament doesn't teach this. There are plenty of good churches, but you just have to choose those churches wisely. Don't just pick the closest place to your house. Do your due diligence. Ask questions. Ask questions of your leaders. You do need churches. You do need leaders to get you to your destiny. So thank you for watching today. If more information comes forward, I might cover this topic again, but I'm not sure. Thank you for watching today. Be blessed.